You're listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hayner.
Hey guys, it's Charge Hayner, present Zoom the TBT. And as we are a couple weeks out from the brackets being officially announced, you know what time it is? It is time for us to discuss our bracketology. Charge, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic, Hayner. I mean, you mentioned on Twitter earlier, this week's been insane with just news of players, news of new teams jumping in, teams that never been involved with the TBT. We're really looking forward to. So exciting times to be part of the TBT community.
Yeah, it's really been a crazy week. And because we have so much news, we added a third person on our roof. Michael Illiano, GM of longtime standard and former finalist Team 23, will be joining us tonight to discuss the brackets. Mike, how you doing tonight?
Good. How you guys doing?
Fucking exhausted. Too much going on, man. You got the day jobs and you have like teams breaking. We're literally doing these graphics up to the minute of taping this year because it's just wild with the depth of the field. So let's just get right into it. I mean, that's what people want to hear is what's going on here. So right there, you've got the regions. And again, just so you all know them, it's Wichita, West Virginia, Columbus in the Midwest. Obviously, Charge I've already announced for press coverage. We're going to be going to West Virginia and Columbus more than likely, which we're really looking forward to. But all these regions look incredibly insane. And right there, let's just go right to the overall number ones. We're making some educated guesses. So Charge, walk us through the selection process of these number one seeds.
Yeah, so what we came up with is obviously overseas elite number one in Wichita. And you'll find throughout the bracketology, we did have to go out and make some assumptions based on teams that are historically in, quality of team that are historically in. And so overseas elite is not officially committed. They always come in and do the late surprise.
The day of.
Wow us all like we knew you weren't going to jump in. Come on. And so overseas elite will be back. We placed them in Wichita. I heard some rumblings about that. So obviously a no-brainer. Overseas elite gets in, and they're obviously a number one seed for us.
Yeah, they look at the sideline cancer, if that really strong one they had last year, and they've just gotten even better. That three-headed backcourt's added a lot of depth. That roster, Eric Thompson still has the dirtier work. And I mean, I know Illiano, Mike, you're looking at possibly going to Wichita. How would you feel about having to go through OE to get Team 23 into Dayton?
We'd love a second shot at them. I mean, from a competitor standpoint, who wouldn't love to play those guys? That's you want to be one of the teams that say you beat them, but we know how good they are, and especially if they can bring back some of their original guys. I don't think they've ever been beaten with Fogg and McCollum. So, it'll be fun.
And Charge, I know you're really you're a little skeptical at first, but with the apparent demise of Big X and them being swallowed by Carmen's crew, I know you're really personally very high on the Ohio State alum now.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a team I was had trending the wrong way. And if you listen to our last show with Vosters, Martucci, and Tim, it was one of the topics we discussed. And I think the additions they made, they have the core of their team back. And even without Aaron Kraft, obviously Sully hasn't played in 2 years. But when you add Wesson, when you add Shannon Scott, when you add some youth and Keyshawn Woods, I think they addressed every single concern I had. And I originally had Red Scare here on our first kind of top 25 and some of those things. But I jumped Carmen's crew up. They got that home crowd playing on campus. It's going to be a great show in Carmen's crew. I would not be surprised to see them in the finals again this year.
Yeah, it's quite possible. And Mike, do you care to weigh in on the overall strength of a team like the Eagles, having been the defending champion? I assume heavy wears the crown. What do you think they have to face with complacency, with the ravage of age? How hard will it be for them to repeat?
I don't know. It might be easier for them. And I say that because they lost the championship the year before and came back and won it. And I know I've been in that position and multiple teams have been in that position. So, just going by that logic, I don't think it wears on them at all.
Fair enough. And it's worth mentioning, so we just had a wonderful conversation with Fraser Davidson, who actually does a lot of the logos for TBT, which was a fascinating conversation about the design of identity. And a lot of credit goes to Golden Eagles for realizing the mistake they made with the branding on Ultimate Warrior, really changing back to the original, don't mess with what works. So that was a really big move for them to go back to what works.
Yeah.
But
And the thing with the Eagles too, this is another one that we don't know where they're going officially, but Illinois makes the most business sense. And once they officially get registered, I'm assuming we're going to see them there.
Yeah, I think Peoria is only about a 3-hour drive from Milwaukee. I was actually going to go there instead of Columbus and visit my best friend who lives out there. But the reality is, like with the flights being out there, I'm just going to drive and see you charge in Columbus for 2 straight weekends.
Blast. Can't wait.
It'll be a lot of fun. Okay, so let's get right into this. I'll be taking the left and Charles will be on the right as per usual. So we're talking about Wichita first. So we're looking at, again, OE, the 4-time champions, a wonderful team, very dangerous and a worthy 1 seed. Scraping by against the Fort Hood Wounded Warriors.
Nice.
Said Brooks has a very quality team out there. And the depth of field is apparent when you see a team of that quality at a 16 seed line. Let's know how insane this event's getting. The Aftershocks, the hosts, we bumped all the way down to an 8 seed. Obviously they have a lot of depth and a very good roster, but we're trying to piss people off. If you saw our last show, Charles had some very powerful opinions about the quality of the Aftershocks.
To the round of 16.
So safe to say we are not going to the Wichita Regional because we want Charles to give grief. They would be playing the Enchantment in this bracket, the New Mexico alums, which I know Charles is also very high on the quality of that New Mexico Lobo alum. Charles, take us on the right real quick.
Yeah, so on that side we have LA Cheaters coming in number 5, obviously getting a lot of shine right now with Casper Ware, Derek Williams, and they're going to be a strong team, highly competitive team. Then we have the Blue Crew. So Omaha Blue Crew to create an alumni through their head in the ring after the first 2 versions of my bracketology. So we slipped them in here in Wichita. We'll talk about
tonight. We slipped them in tonight.
So we'll talk about the team. We had a bump to get the Blue Crew there in a moment.
Hi, Mike.
Number 4, Florida TNT. I mean, this team here is ready to go. Terry is ready to, and he's not going to like this number 4. But when you look at the 3 teams that I put ahead of them, one of the things I like to talk about is that alumni base. So we've got some alumni teams and just some high level folks similar to Florida TNT. So Florida TNT's played as DRC, but after missing last year, 4 seed's going to be great for them, and they're going to show their thing there. And of course, Louisiana United. So Brad Boyd always puts together a good team. They got Bartley playing for them. Tyron Johnson's usually involved. I'm not sure his schedule playing over
the French league is
France
a mess
this
right
year.
now.
Yeah. So this is going to be a solid non-alumni team that's competed hard every tournament. So I expect them to show up and be a solid performer again this year.
Mike, what hits you out of this? Like, who, if you were in this bracket, and you actually are applying to Wichita Regional with your team, so what kind of, if you had to take a road you didn't want besides the way, like who would you not want to be matched up with if you were in that 7 to 10 line, which where we'd probably put team 23?
I mean, like I said, as a competitor, it really doesn't matter, but I do think that Florida TNT team really has a chip on their shoulder for not being in it last year. And I was there,
and Terry has told us that before.
Yeah. I watched them play in Greensboro 2 years ago, and he, without a doubt, has a better team now than he did 2 years ago. So they'd probably be my choice.
Yeah, I want to avoid them. Let's go to the bottom half of this bracket. So we're looking at the 2 Team ALS with their guard edition, swiping Studley Jerome Randall, who had his number retired from Epperline, really changes the complexion of a deep team's already solid backcourt. True title contender, playing friends of the pod and perennial spoiler Kimchi Express. Kind of a tough draw for LS because even though Kimchi's a 15, they're not an easy out. They've gotten better every year. They've built a competitive brand, a fun brand into a real basketball team. So again, like even at a 15 seed, they're not to be fucked with. Epperline Drive really fell a lot in this bracket. The loss of Randall, McCura going to zip them up. And also there's some rumblings about a certain Arkansas guard on the move too. You start to see that they might be having some roster problems. Having said that, Matt and Jake always really got a good roster. So 7 seed could really be underseeded. And then Team Colorado, this is interesting because they have applied. They look like they're going to get in, but like we don't know much about the roster. It's still very much an unknown. So on strength of previous entries, they get in a decent seed, but there's no guarantees here. It's one of those teams you have to wonder how they're going to come in. Charge the right side.
So number 3, we have Team Arkansas. So yeah, I'm really high on Keith and his team this year. Obviously, Jalen Barford going over to Team Arkansas from Jackson, Tennessee Underdogs is kind of the one of the top stories of the TBT year so far. And like I said, I won't comment too much, but we've alluded to it a number of times in a number of our podcasts. But we think this team
Brad transfer back.
Yeah. So we think there's going to be a couple more guys that are even going to strengthen this team. And so, I mean, 3 maybe. I mean, this could be a 1-2 team as well once the roster plays.
But
out.
only one ball. It becomes an issue. They only have one ball. They have a lot of guys, a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah, we are D3. Obviously, Hanger just got done recording a podcast with them. So Reg and his team, these guys always show up and come prepared. This is one of the teams that, as we go through, there may be some teams that you're like, why are these guys? They don't have any named guys like we are D3, D2, primetime players. But these guys have all earned their TBT court credibility throughout the years. And 100% these guys deserve to be in deep bracket at Wichita. I'd love to see them even get a little higher seed. But I think that would be a heck of a game, D3 versus Team Arkansas.
And Seth Greenberg did say that one of the best coaches in TBT was friend of the pod, Mike Reg. So that was interesting. Reniak was mentioned explicitly by Greenberg as one of the best coaches in TBT. New entry charge.
New entry, the Ducks. So
Quack.
this one, I think this one just broke out today. So it's always us, the Oregon Ducks, and I haven't even had a chance to look at their team. So I just thought in the 6th. It just was what it was.
Day of. This is how fast this goes together.
And so that's one of those ones, obviously.
Hey, Mike, what was the team name you wanted it? They should change.
Yeah, they should call themselves Duck Dynasty.
Mike, yeah, go. It's there. It's right there.
Yeah, Duck Dynasty. It just makes sense.
I mean, just too much sense. Charge, they're playing.
The Stillwater Stars. So, yeah, you'll see in this Wichita bracket, there's a lot of solid alumni teams in here. So when you look at some of these teams like the Stillwater Stars coming in at 11, it just really shows the depth. And hopefully everyone watching this and kind of reviewing the bracket, because that's what you take away from today on our kind of first quick and dirty bracket. It's nasty out here. I mean, this TBT is deeper than anything we've ever seen before. The alumni team strength is better than it's ever been before. The non-alumni teams get better and better every year. And so that's going to be a great matchup there.
Let's talk a little bit about teams on the cutting room floor. There's just a lot of quality. You look at the top. So first of all, Mike, you're obviously on the cutting room floor right now. We don't know enough about your team. Well, to be honest, I don't think you know enough about your team yet. But we know you're putting it together. So we think you have a strong entry case, as do the other 2 teams with you. So update us a little bit on Team 23. I mean, we don't think you would make if you got your team together. So we're thinking you're in this bracket. You're applying to Wichita. So like, what is the progress of getting your team together? Like, let our listeners know how the team's coming together.
Initially, it hit a couple of snags and roadblocks, but over the last 3-4 days, I've made a lot of progress. I explained to you that one of the issues I'm having is the French league season is kind of like extended, and there's like 4 or 5 guys I've been talking to that you could just tell like the tiredness that they're going through in that French league season is catching up. So I've had to make like some on the fly changes, but I feel pretty sure that within a week we'll be in this bracket. I don't know where. I guess like if you guys want to make that call, you look at our roster. But if I had a guess, it'd probably be somewhere between 8 and 11, just being logical.
That seems right.
Yeah.
It's going to be a mess, though. I mean, like, just the quality of teams. Like, again, another team like Charge. I know you have a favorite up there that you'd like to see in the dance, and we're going to have them on the show soon.
Yeah, I actually like them both. I like Washington and Valor, but I'll take my time on Valor. And this one here, it pains me to have them out. Like I said, last minute, I had to throw in the Ducks, which I personally, Mike liked that Duck Dynasty, but I saw a Ducks Twitter account Addicted to Quack.
Like that a lot.
I love the Addicted to Quack name, but we'll go with Always Us. That's what they named themselves. So we'll roll with it. But love the Valor. So one of the buzzwords that TBT's been throwing around on their calls and briefing the teams on is passion. And I don't think Utah Valor, anyone who follows the TBT would question the passion that they have for their team, their players. And
top 5 social media account. Top 5 social media accounts.
So I had to pull them out. And so when you look at 16 Fort Hood Wounded Warriors, solid team, 15 Kimchi Express, 14 We Are D3, 13 Louisiana United. I just don't know where they're going to fit in. I want them to fit in because trust me, we need to see Boss Cloth and the twin towers of Utah Valor. So anything can happen in the next couple of weeks, and we know there will be some bracket shifting. I mean, we saw it already with teams moving from Wichita to Columbus, Illinois to West Virginia, whatever the case is. So there's going to be a lot of movement, and so I hope Utah Valor finds a way to get into this Wichita bracket.
Yeah, and looking at the also on board, there's some pretty quality teams on there. I'm sort of partial to the West Coast Ronin, who have been an OG team. Have been in this quite a few times, so I'd like to see them try to sneak in too. But I want to talk a little bit about Team Washington. So, like, they by rights not only should be in, they should be a top 4 or 3 seed. We're putting them out right now on the question, really, I think, of the idea of that other league, the one that doesn't play a full court, that half court league. Some of them have commitments with I can't remember the half court league, the one that doesn't play defense, the old man. I don't remember what they are.
The big three.
Oh yeah, the one that they don't play any defense and only play half the court. That one. A lot of them have commitments with that. So I'm really curious to see if they can get out of them or they'll be allowed to play, because having the guys that are supposed to play in that not play in this would hurt their seeing or hurt their organizational stuff. So, I mean, if they have Nate, Baby, Roten, and the other guys they've got, they're obviously not only in their top 4 seeds, not even a question. Like they would go from not in to like a protected seed in a minute. But the question is, can they get out of those like sort of the other league commitments, the big 3, the half court league? If they can, they're obviously in the bracket. And again, this just shows you the depth. Who do you bump? I don't know. They're all worthy. 1 to 16, you don't bump any of these teams. So this region's begging for an expansion, like a planned term. It's crazy. So let's go to that's one down. Let's keep it moving. We've got to go to West Virginia, and Charge and I will be going to West Virginia. Can't wait. It'll be fun. I'm planning the days at this point. So we're going to start with Sideline Cancer, friend of the pod, our first overall guest we've ever had on the show. They just get better. We hear there's a couple more roster moves coming up. They're going to be a very high-quality team. They'd be playing. So we have the Brooklyn Vultures here. Now, a little bit about the Vultures. 1, they may get on the rights. They actually have a quality enough team to get in. 2, this is a placeholder for the cash tournament. I'm forgetting his name. Charge, help me out. Beasley. Vic Beasley. Vic Beasley has a tournament where he puts up the money and invites people to do gladiatorial combat in Atlanta, and they're all down there right now. In fact, they're just going to start playing in a couple days. We're assuming Brooklyn wins, but there's some other really OG, really quality squads in there. So we're using this as a placeholder. They may get on their own, but definitely someone's coming out of there in Atlanta with a bid at the end of the week. Yeah,
and we don't know if it's going to be West Virginia or Columbus. So we'll talk about the other buy-in that's in the Illinois bracket as well. So there's 2 buy-ins left, really. It's the one that's unannounced from Vic Beasley once we know that winner. And so West Virginia and Columbus. And I wouldn't be surprised with how deep this is if someone doesn't grab that other buy-in spot for Columbus.
Yeah, I was thinking about buying them. Okay. D2, friend of the pod, always a perennial chip in those shoulders. Dropped him a seed line from last time. Still a quality team. It's just, again, as more teams enter, it gets a little more messy. Very dangerous. We're one of the lower seeds last time, walked out with a win. They beat Big X. And they'll be playing the Buccaneers as a 9 seed. This will be a really fun game, in fact. So chip on the shoulder teams. Good time to mention that Charge did the Bracketology this week. I was too busy doing production. And I agree wholeheartedly with most of his takes. He's done a wonderful job. But this is a really dangerous matchup. I mean, 2 underappreciated, gritty, hard-nosed teams. A lot of fun. This will be a great, great side. Charge to the right.
Yeah, we got Herd Dad. And so Herd Dad, obviously, very polarizing team. Love what they do. Love the energy they bring. It's just fun for the tournament, fun for the community. And, this is getting to be a really deep bracket. And,
is this the deepest bracket? I mean, it's this or Columbus right now, right?
I like Columbus to be a little deeper, but West Virginia with the recent moves from, which we'll talk about, Boeheim's an armored athlete. This is probably getting very close to Columbus quality. So, and then there's we haven't seen them fill out the rest of their roster yet. So, they can move back up, but I think 5 is going to be about where they land, and it's a really deep situation.
Harris United.
Paris United, yeah, this year is going to be a good team. Nobody knows about him, but he's been in the TBT circle for a little bit now. He's got Jason Thompson and Trevon Duvall, I believe, going off memory. So they're going to be a tough team, a non-alumni team, and I think they definitely get in unless something gets shaky with their roster and their reliability. But I envision them getting in here, and they may be better than a 12 seed once they get their full roster filled out. And of
That's
course,
Virginia.
That's Virginia. So co-host with Heard That. So, and the one thing we'll mention, we didn't do a lot of smoothing on this bracketology. When we do our second one after the deadline period, TBT is going to look for matchups. This one just coincidentally fell that way. Like I said, I did it real quick and dirty right off the my gut, what felt right. And, seeing a 4-5 matchup for West Virginia in that second round would be pretty powerful and amazing. So future bracketologies will probably filter it a little bit better and smooth it a little bit better to matchups that TBT may want to see that are appealing to the broad base.
And there's no way they're going to be in the same. They're going to try to prolong that gate as long as possible. They will be in separate brackets. There's no way they're going to have the same bracket, I would think.
Someone's going to have to drop a seed or two then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think even the NCAA moves the seed lines for competitive reasons. We don't hunt matchups. Of course you don't. Yeah. NCAA lies. They confuse the athletes and they hunt matchups. Okay. A fan favorite.
Showtime, yeah. So love what these guys did. Obviously, the WOCO Showtime is what they're referred to as now. The Wofford alumni coming together. Lee Skinner's been a fixture of Showtime for a lot of years now, and bringing on Fletcher McGee. Can't speak Fletcher McGee and a band of brothers from Wofford. So I think this is going to be a team to watch. I was so trying to push these guys a little higher because I think they're going to be a little bit better than a 13, but I just sat them here for now until we see how things shake out with the other teams.
The depth. Mike, you had a moment about you want to mention something about Brooklyn Vultures, in fact, Mike.
Oh, yeah. The Vic Beasley play-in tournament is June 11th, and on his Facebook page, they're going to have the game streaming. I think he mentioned it on Twitter because I was trying to find out. I wanted to watch them myself.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some really, really, really high-quality teams. So, Mike, is there anything that strikes you about this sort of sub-regional? I think it's really interesting, besides, again, the insane depth this event's starting to get to.
Yeah, what strikes me is I actually agree with Charge, and I do think that they're going to manipulate that 4-5 matchup. I don't think they'll be on the other side. I just know how they think. Like, they'd rather have it early than not have it at all.
I agree. Especially now that back in the day when you maybe had Ohio State and, Red Scare and 1 through 16 doesn't look like 1 through 16 now, you were pretty much guaranteed these guys were going to come together, but there's no guarantees. Some of these folks are getting out of the first round. So I do agree with Mike on that. I think
interesting.
Some of these premier matchups a little bit earlier.
So you think that they don't, I mean, and it's not a diss on either. By the way, let's be clear. It's not a diss on Herd or Best because, I mean, Paris and Showtime aren't soft touches. There are, at this point, no soft touches in this tournament. If you're a 16 seed, there is no reason you can't win your first round. None. There just isn't at this point. It isn't like college where some team from nobody cares state plays Duke. This is a real thing now. But you guys think they really just want to get it out of the way. You want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. And when you look at the teams, I mean, and start seeding, it makes sense too, based on
the seed numbers completely make sense. We're not even talking about that, but I'm really interested. I'm wondering if they care more about the matchup of having them play or having each survive as long as possible, get the split the fan base to get people. I don't know. I mean, I think one thing we've learned during this podcast the last 2 years, also we've learned from being fans of the event for longer, we've been fans or participants a long time, is that it is somewhat professional wrestling. So the calculation of how that matchup is figured, because they're not going to overseed people more than a line or two. They're not dishonest, but they will definitely, if they can move a team a line to get a matchup, they're going to do it. So it's interesting. I don't know if I agree with that I think they might prolong the teams, but I mean, we're going to find out. And by the way, on a true seed line charge, 100% correct. I agree with these seeds a lot. So let's go to the second half, guys. Let's go to the second half of the West Virginia Regional. So Boeheim's Army, I have to say I like them because my girlfriend will murder me if I don't. This is actually, oddly enough, though, I will say the one time, I'll just say it now, Charge, because again, Charge took the bullet and did the whole thing. I think they're a little high. I don't know
No,
enough
no.
about the roster.
Yeah, I know nothing about their roster, but I know enough about Kevin Belby and his
A
ability
stud.
put together a team. And there was an interesting article. The lady Donna, who does a
Mhm.
lot of reporting on Boeheim's Army, does some great work. And the article had a lot about the business side, and
Mhm.
they have a big time booster this year. So in the article, it referenced, in the past, they were able to, help with transportation and hotel costs and things of that nature. I think this booster is going to be able to recruit, more quality than they've ever seen, make it a very appealing situation to want to play for Boeheim's Army. Not that it's not appealing as it is, because these guys have a great fan base and they have top quality players coming back year after year after year. But these guys, I think, are just really raising the bar from the business level with this booster brought on this year. And so I think these guys are going to fall back where they historically have sat and hit that 2 line.
I mean, I am really curious though, because the team's going to have it's let's be clear. Devendorf, one of the best players in TBT history. I think it's fair to say one of the most electric guards they've had, but he isn't getting younger. They also had another Nichols is now going to be coaching at Syracuse. So they have 2 guys who are stalwarts who have played for them, who have been studs and will remain contributors, but they are kind of aging out. So I'm really curious to see if the roster turnover of Belby can start to get some of those. I mean, Merrick Dolezaj, they'll do everything point center for the last Syracuse team, because he's already said he wants to go overseas. He probably won't be an NBA draft pick. This is tailor-made for an event like him. He can definitely contribute. So we'll see if they can blend the old with the new. And they would be playing the JMU's founding fathers in a pretty tough first game, to be honest with you. And then, of course,
on the founding fathers, obviously, breaking news today. So obviously, Iowa United almost had a WNBA player suit up for their team last year, or was it 2 years ago? I can't even remember now. I'll blur.
She would have been good.
It would have been 2 years ago with Meg Gustafson, and I can't remember the girl's first name, but Smalls is her last name for JMU. She was a WNBA draft pick, and so awesome to see them get her involved and kind of start to integrate some of those top players that can play and show up and
absolutely
give the guys a test, because everything I read today is it's going to be amazing to see, and she can seriously ball. So can't wait.
Yeah, she can give buckets. She can give buckets.
Yeah, and that's going to be one of those ones. There's a great narrative on James Madison, so I think they were safely in no matter what. But I think this is a great story, great narrative, and they're going to be locked into the TBT.
So talking about the second half of this a little bit, War Ready, friends of the pod, really solid team. We were both extremely high on them last year. I came and just laid a massive egg. So the depth, a lot of the same teams coming back with some notable additions. They should be better coached, better organized. I fully expect them to shake in the freshman blues and really have a good sophomore campaign. And then again, if you want prepared, if you want professional, if you want classy, if you want a team that's going to come and play no matter what, the primetime players are boys. Not a lot of stars. Even Trevor Booker, a former NBA player, really helps that star quality. But they're going to come correct. They're going to come to play, and they're not going to fuck around. And nobody, they're beatable. They can be had. They're not the most talented team, but no one wants to play them because they're a tough out. And you may beat them, but you'll have the bruises for days later. Charge the right side.
Yeah, so Armored Athlete, which I'm excited about. We've had a good relationship with AJ and Jess, and
hi, Jess.
The folks running Armored Athlete for a while. So when I saw that they switched over to the West Virginia bracket, I geeked out a little bit, because it's going to be a fun time. I mean, I just love watching basketball and coming down and seeing the games in West Virginia. But a lot of the folks that we build good relationships here are going to be there. So
it's going to be
solid
fun.
number 3 pick there. They haven't announced much of their bracket, but they definitely have some quality players lined up.
But getting the guy from Gale Nation doesn't help Gale Nation get an Armin. That's a key thing. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And they're going to put it up against mental toughness. And mental toughness has been one of these first-year teams that have been really, really, really impressive.
Strong branding.
Their team's coming along with Floyd and Marcus Towns, and so they've got good quality players, and they have a good brand. They have a good presence. Everything about them speaks to a quality team in TBT, not only from the players, but also the messaging and the passion for what they're doing. So this one here, I know they're going to be disappointed with their seed at 14, but I think first year teams. I just want to make this point again. You don't have that court credibility yet. We've seen teams come in with a lot of talent before and just kind of peter out, and then you got a primetime players who's got a ton of court credibility. So, some of my seedings, I do look at that because I think that puts, some teams, I don't think it's mental toughness, a little at risk in getting into top 16 if there's not confidence in their play and how they're going to come together on the court. And then Gale Nation. So this has always been one of my favorite teams out there. And I think one of the most underappreciated teams year after year after year. They show up in battle every year. Big time snub last year. So they're back. Armand went over to Armored Athlete, but they're still building a great core of guys over there. Hopefully Machado plays. They're not done doing their announcements yet. But, if Machado plays and the rest of the roster fills out as I'd expect, and I think a solid number 6 over here.
You know how upset Vinny's about to be with us?
Vinny, this is another one like Mike. I just don't know enough about the team. Vinny's been pretty
still
quiet
building.
Yeah, so they're still building. Some of the corner pieces we talked about, their great card play with Perkins, and I'm losing my train of thought on the other guy, Corey Sanders. So they got some good guards lined up that's going to lead this team.
Need a wing depth.
So we need to figure out what the back half of that team looks like. So right now I'm sitting on an 11. Expect them to possibly move up depending on it, but it just kind of shows the depth of what is taking place in this region. So when you start to look at 1 through 16, it is a loaded region with a lot of talent.
I just realized too, looking at this bracket, is every game, if the bracket played out this way theoretically, we'd have a friend of the pod in every game. But we would literally have to care about every game completely, even more than we normally would anyway. Mike, as this hits you, is there anything out of this sort of region that looks notable to you?
Yeah. You don't want to draw primetime players in the first round, but I feel like I like Matt. I hope for Matt that that's not his draw.
It's a bad draw.
Yeah. And I like Chris too. Chris is a great guy.
Thomas is the king of minor league basketball.
Yeah. They're one of those teams like us. I was calculating of all our losses, they were all between 4 and 6 points, and primetime players is the same way. You're not going to knock them out, without having a fight on your hands.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting too, because the thing is, they're a team that won't beat themselves. You can beat them. They are beatable, but you're going to have to do it yourself. They're not going to beat them for you. Charge to the top. There's a couple of really notable teams there. Versus you can go, what are you looking at those next ups that are really interesting to you?
Yeah, I believe Virginia is probably the most interesting. And this is another one. Once I figured out where Boeheim's was going, I slotted them over in, where did I have it slotted? Illinois or something, just as a placeholder. To put him there, but they showed up on the website in there in West Virginia. So believe Virginia. I could see this team making the top 16. The other challenge, like I said, I did take up one slot with the Brooklyn Vultures, as that could be a automatic entry. But you got some veterans on there like Reggie Williams. This looks like it may come together as a team of kind of the Richmond Spiders. I know they already got Chandre Jones. I wouldn't be surprised if TJ Klein didn't come and play with those guys. Reggie Williams is just an old vet that can score all day long. These guys are familiar with the TBT. If it's a GM or people involved with the team that I believe they are. And so I think this team is just going to get better as the last few roster spots get filled out. And I think they're going to make the 16, but where do you bump someone from there? Because when I read the bottom 4, not counting the Vultures, you're going to have to bump the Founding Fathers, Mental Toughness, Woco Showtime, Parish United. So who do you bump to get Bleed Virginia in there? And this is one we have no idea what bracket, but just because they're adjacent to West Virginia, we dropped them here.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. So we're halfway home, guys. Let's go ahead and let's start talking about how loaded this Columbus regional is. One-time champ and always dangerous Carmen's crew just look more and more loaded as usual. And as Charge said, he's really high on them. And they would be playing, and I'm going to make sure I pronounce this right, Newman Goretti, who will be a guest on the pod very soon, in fact. A high school alumni squad, first you've seen, but a couple of old Cuse guys and Jackson and Scoop Jardine, a lot of talent, about as dangerous a 16 seed as you can get. Pretty interesting story.
Yeah, I love this one, and I'm not taking them out of the top 16. They need to play in the tournament. This first high school alumni team I bumped a couple teams like Panther Family, the Georgia State folks, and Team DRC.
Don't give up the story before you release the brackets charge. Don't you know about show production? Jesus.
I know, but I mean,
come on,
forever. But you get it. So we're bumping some quality teams to make
really
sure
high quality teams
come into play because I think they deserve it as well.
We'll just announce these together. Blue collar, you the Buffalo alum, and brown and white. Charge loves this matchup. He's been talking about this in pre-production all day. Charge, take us to the right side. And how much I hate these people.
Yeah, the Tennessee Volunteers. So yeah, this is another crazy one when you think about the Volunteers as a 5. I think they were, in the top 10 in some recent power rankings by some other folks, and they're going to be a really good team. I think the 4 got ahead of them are still going to be much better than the Volunteers, but this one here, you just start looking at the left side of that bracket and looking at the 8s to 9s to 16s. This is so deep. So love the Volunteers. And a 5 is ridiculous.
And I'll be rooting for
the Nerd Team. Yeah, so they got a lot of love for their for their logo today. So they broke that today. So cool logo. This team here, the Nerd Team, is not a gimmick. I mean, these guys can play ball. Amir Bell is I think going to be the figurehead there and be one of the lead guys on that team. But they have a lot of talent, some NBA experience on there, a lot of overseas pros, and so very, very good team.
And what is the most dangerous new alumni team?
Zip them up easily. So I think these guys are ranked 4 in that same power rankings. And so I've got a 4 in a region. This is how good Columbus is. And that's not to say that, which I can't read the 3 names before because Hainer will get mad at me again. But easily the GM of the year right here. I mean, these guys have gone from not participating in the TBT and if you're saying no, they're not easily the GM of the year, you're nuts.
I think Keith Kelly would have something to say about that.
No. I love Keith and I love his team, but they picked up some players, which is great. But zip them up as the whole package right now. Huge social presence. Got some D1 coaching experience.
Very high social presence, definitely.
Minimum like $8,000 on GoFundMe right now. They got their fans engaged. They got businesses involved with their franchise.
That's true.
So this is one of these ones.
Fair.
This isn't just some random alumni team showing up. And this is a brand, and this is a solid brand.
How did they get that much fucking money?
Yeah, they did.
Were they giving extra services?
This weekend
what was going on?
But yeah, no, Keith, I think roster, if we're just talking straight roster, makes a strong case. But this is a total package right here, and zip them up.
So, Charge, you're an Ohio boy.
Yeah, so this is once again one of those matchups. I hope that holds true. So Ohio University obviously got a lot of accolades this year in the NCAA and performed very well. So we need to have a good regional matchup here. We always talk about Carmen's Crew. We talk about Red Scare in this Columbus bracket, but when you get to zip them up with the quality they are, Ohio University with the quality they are. I wish Cincinnati worked their way in, but I don't see it happening again this year. So they showed up about 3 years ago in Columbus and did a nice job with the show and had a good fan base, but hasn't been able to bring it back together now. So we're creating the new Ohio rivalry with Zip 'em Up and Ohio University.
I didn't even catch that. That makes sense. Mike, what hits you here?
What hits me is 7 of 8 of these teams have not participated in this event.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I look at 3 specific awesome teams in Tennessee, Buffalo, and Xavier. And just knowing what I know about the event, one of them is going to show out and be like this year's Illinois was last year and be a newcomer, and that'll be great. And one of them will end up a dud. It's just the nature of this event.
Absolutely.
And it's not a disrespect to all 3 of those teams, but when I see it, that's what I see as someone who's been in this event is 7 of 8 of these teams haven't been in it. And that opens the door for Carmen's Crew.
Yeah. I mean, not that they even need the door open. They're usually smashing the doors down themselves behind their 6'2" brawling center, Jeff Gibbs. But it is interesting. I didn't even think about it. These are all relatively new teams. That's a really good observation, Mike. Thanks for bringing it up. That's actually a good damn point.
We saw what Wisconsin did in Columbus. They got smashed by Mid-American Unity. So that was awesome. So good point, Mike.
God. Okay, so Team Hines coming correct at the 2 seed. We don't know a lot about the roster, but they're starting to fill out. I mean, they're gonna come with stud teams. We know as long as they come, The rumor is Hines will play himself this year, which would really help them a lot. Speaking of Mid-American Uni, the official team of Charge Nation, a lot of respect there.
They're taking down Hines all day.
That might be an interesting matchup, actually. Men of Mackey, they've added some nice parts, a little bit younger blood, a second-year team, adding some more talent. And then the Money team, who flamed out really badly last year, honestly. It's sort of an all-star collection of really talented guys. I don't expect them to come in that level of disorganization or line change basketball against hockey next year. I think they'll actually have learned their lesson and come in. I'm looking at Mike's face. He has something to say. But Mike, is there anything to say, or are you watching your mouth there?
No. I just heard through the grapevine that they're having similar issues that we're having, like coming together. So it's not even a critique because I'm going through the same thing.
Yeah, it is interesting with the EuroLeague timing this year being so janky. It's really strange. Okay, Charge to the right side.
All right, so we got that number 3 Red Scare. So and I can't remember who talked about it. It might have been Martucci on our last pop, but really likes Red Scare. What's there not to like? These guys show up every time and compete. They have a lot of depth, a lot of experience, a lot of fan base. So Red Scare, solid number 3 right here. Number 14, that's our Louisville team. So we don't know much about these guys yet, except that they do have Ryan McMahon, who played for the Red Scare last year. So that would make for an interesting matchup, Red Scare versus Louisville. And Samardo Samuels, a guy who obviously was a Cleveland Cavalier, but played for the Charge. So, Louisville gets a little bump up there for that. Leaving them at 14 now, obviously they have a great talent pool. We don't know who's going to show up. We don't know when they'll start announcing their team, but solid 14 right now.
I got to tell you too, I really want them. It's too bad they're in a separate region or they are in the same region as Tennessee. I want a Tennessee-Louisville game just so I can root for something to hit people. Like if it's Louisville and Tennessee, I can just root for an actual court collapse and they all just get sucked into it as a Memphis fan. They just all have. I'm not going to root for either team, obviously. So that's one of those things as a Memphis fan I just can't do. Charge, get me off this Memphis crap. Nobody cares. Number 6.
Yeah, Wolf Blood could take your mind off that. And this team is another one of 6 is crazy. This team's going to be really, really good. I was reading up on them earlier in the week, and the number of guys who played in the NCAA tournament at around 16 or better was phenomenal. They got QJ Peterson from VMI, who just was MVP, I think, of the Danish league. And so they've got grad transfer plus their core guys and really high on Wolf Blood. Just shows the depth. I can't move them any higher than 6 based on, the folks who I already have ahead of them, but they're going to be amazing. And then category 5, those Miami guys. So they've been really, really quiet. There were some rumors if this team would develop or not. They did make the website. They've had some players listed on the TBT website for quite a bit now, and they were moved over as a team that applied. So obviously if they show up with the team, with the guys listed on the website, and being a strong alumni team like that, they're going to get in. So got them in 11 there, and unbelievable bracket. We have 11
do what it takes to get Shane Larkin on the team. Do what it takes to get Shane Larkin. I know, but do what it takes.
Game changing if it was, but 11 true alumni teams sitting in this bracket. Then you have a blended team like the Nerd Team, Mid-American Unity, and Newman Goretti High School. And so right now you're looking at maybe 2 non-alumni teams and just a loaded alumni and blended team.
And look at the teams that didn't make it, Mike. I mean, this is ridiculous, right? DRC with a loaded squad. We don't even have. That's insane.
DRC will make it.
Oh yeah, we're pretty sure they will too. But I mean, the fact that we can credibly say, I mean, let's be clear, we think DRC will make it too. But this isn't like who do you bump? DRC's got a high quality team, and we can put them in. Isn't that nuts?
If I had to guess on a team that bought in just to be safe, I would not be surprised if DRC didn't buy in.
Oh yeah. Just to be like, here's because. He's got the money. What's he care?
And that's another one of those ones, they've kind of had a couple of different iterations. They had the Florida TNT kind of DNA originally. Those guys kind of branched off. And I like the names on DRC, but I wasn't overly moved by them. I think they're going to be good, but this may be one of the ones where, a tough decision between Newman Goretti or Mid-American and, some of those teams. But I don't know how you bump Ohio Nerd Team, some of these alumni teams. So I think this may be a non-alumni casualty that nobody would expect or want to see. But I don't know where you put them.
If you're the TBT, do you just decide on the fly to make a couple of playing games as needed? Do you decide to field 64, but you add Charge shakes his head. Mike, do you add a couple extra playing games for the hell of it?
I mean, I would do it, but just knowing the way that they are, they're very like logistic driven, and
Sure.
especially with COVID going on, which is a whole nother discussion we haven't had.
We haven't
vaccinated
isn't that
players.
refreshing not to have that conversation for a change?
Yes, it is. But when it comes to this event and
Sure.
this bracket, everything's going to look so vastly different because of it.
That's true. And also, as much as a team like DRC, and we're pretty sure they'll get in. This is an early iteration. We think they'll probably make the bracket. We're just kind of proving a point with this. But I will say this is like there will be teams that we're high on that for whatever reason, it's completely understandable. A foreign league goes long. You're dealing with the French leagues, or a guy gets hurt, or they lose their funding. There will be 3 to 5 quality teams that vanish just because of the nature of the event. So a team like DRC, if you're like if you're on the cut line on our too early bracketology, that's dangerous. If you're on the cut line now, if you're at the 17s, 18 range, you still have to feel that bad because most of the teams that are credible have put their hats in. So if you're right on the cut line, you might get in through attrition. So you're not really in danger if you're at 17. You might still have a shot. But Charge, you raised a good point about putting the money in. Do you want to talk a little bit about the hoops for ALSF?
Yeah, this is a tough one too, because these are good guys as well. They're doing everything right. I mean, you cannot fault anything that they're doing from a management standpoint. They're, got a good cause they're playing for. They're, have a good quality team. These guys are no slouches. They're overseas pros, so you can't really shoot too much of a hole in the talent. But it's and Hainer says it's a numbers game. In this one here, I hope that something works out for Hoops for ALSF. They have some Northeast Ohio ties, so obviously I'm always rooting for that and want these guys to be successful and win. But I'm just having a tough time figuring out where they would slot into this region. I just unfortunately don't see it right now unless things change, as you mentioned. So I'm hoping there's some change and these guys slide in.
And Mike, you had a one more comment you want to make about, I think, Cat 5, I believe.
It wasn't about Cat 5, but you made a point about Shane Larkin, like do everything you can to get him to play. I want to actually call that shout out to Louisville. Do everything you can to get Russ Smith and Peyton Siva. I tried to get Russ Smith to play, and he wouldn't play. But you got to get one of those two guys on that Louisville team.
And it's got to be Russ, actually, because Russ has range and he walks in the floor. He actually has range to 30 feet, and the best part is he thinks he has range to 35 feet. So he's very dangerous to both teams. Yeah, I mean, I think they should have named themselves the Italian Sausages or something, to be honest with you. I mean, like, and the 3-time champs, last time I checked, they're only a 2-time champ. Didn't the NCAA take one of theirs away? I mean, come on. Like, you guys, I'm kidding. I just hate Louisville, let's be honest. That's what it boils down to. So, Charge, I don't know. Is it unhealthy to hate college teams? You're more of a G League guy.
No. I mean, that's what makes college so fun. Like I said, I don't go hardcore college, but seeing the people I know watch the games and attending some of the games myself, it's just an amazing atmosphere. Just awesome to see. I went to a little D3 school like you, so we didn't have maybe 50 people show up and watch the Fredonia State Blue Devils in action. But, it's just wild to see the teams that just really show up for the squad, and it's electric. So, yeah, you need to have that passion. You need to have those rivalries, and you've got a lot of them.
We lost Mike on camera, too. Mike, where'd you go? Okay, well, Mike will come back. Okay, so we got one region left. This has been pretty interesting. We got one more to go. Mike's coming back now. Okay, so while we wait for Mike to come back, let's talk about this last region. And by the way, real quick, some advice to all the people coming by. If you need to feel a little safer, all the regions have quality teams, but Charge, are you right in saying that as we get into the Midwest and the Peoria region, there might be a little more room in Peoria?
There's a lot of room in Peoria if you want to go out and get it. Yeah, when I look at it, I still think Columbus is the head of the class when it comes to regions, and then West Virginia just got way deep recently. Wichita's a super team or super region as well, and Illinois looks to be. If I was slotting a team and I was undecided, I would not want to kind of fight that Columbus regional or Wichita or West Virginia. I'd be seeing if I can slide over to Illinois and take care of some business.
And that's not a diss. There's obviously high quality teams in every region. So I'm in no way thinking that that makes a safe region or that's an quality, but there might be slightly more room in Peoria. So we're slighting the champs there. Again, credit to them for dropping the troubling nomenclature of the name, and they were really smart to do that. The only mistake they've made in the last year is that. Otherwise, they've been pitch perfect, both from a standpoint of running the team and the quality of the team. And OG squad, the Jackson Tennessee Underdogs, they have had some massive defections, losing Barford, losing to the Eastern Tennessee teams. But I really think they still have a chance to make some noise because they play for each other. I don't see them winning this game, but I see them leaving a mark on the Golden Eagles, maybe making their repeat a little harder.
Yeah, and I think they get in no matter what. So this is one where who knows what's going to end up with the roster. And like I said, they'll be ready to play and play tough. But, they've made it to the round of the 8, and then they got bumped, and they were going to be a host team.
They're going to be a host, yeah.
And obviously Barford jumped, which, doesn't impact them. So I think there's definitely going to be some goodwill here. I think Jackson, Tennessee Underdogs gets in no matter what.
Yeah. And then you got Heartfire, always a strong squad. The first time repeating, we'll see if they can get some of those Baylor guys back in the squad. Playing one of the host teams, always a Brave. One of the host teams that maybe is they're our lowest seeded host team. They're bringing back a lot of some guys from like 2006. They got some young blood, but there is some depth and age, a little long in the tooth. They'll be a quality squad, but you wonder what kind of pace they're going to be able to play at. Charge to the right side.
The right side, 20th and only. Yeah, so this team, I talked to them on the last podcast. I think they're a solid team. And this is another one. I think they're probably better than a 5. But when I look at the teams above them that are kind of, proven out recent years, Olney's taken a couple, 2 or 3 years off since their last appearance in the TBT. But love Maurice Watson. The guy killed it overseas this year, and I think he's going to be a star for Olney. And they have good depth, guys that are going to get out there and get physical, and it's going to be a fun team to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, the team with the shortest commute of any team you've got.
The Peoria All-Stars. Yeah, so these guys are fixtures for a while, and this is another one you can't sleep on. I really like Chris Wilson on this Peoria team. He's a Northeast Ohio guy, but, he's an electric player, just really athletic. And so I'm looking forward to seeing Peoria All-Stars this year.
And worth mentioning, too, the teams that were willing to be bubble hold teams in the bubble, the teams that are willing to be replacement teams, I think will be looked upon favorably by the committee because they made the sacrifice to come where they weren't promised playing time. And I think that if there's a tie between quality, I think the teams that acted as placeholders and they all got to play, which makes it interesting, I think they're definitely going to be considered strongly as participants. A team you like a lot.
Yeah. I love Murray State. And
shout out to John Morant.
Yeah, and they got a new logo today, so that's how.
I don't have the logo. I don't have the logos updated.
That's how fast things change around here. So it's probably an hour or two before this broke. So overlooked. I don't think we're going to be overlooking them much once they get their final roster put together. Strong team, and expect big things from them. And then this one here, sickle cell hoops, and this one here we don't know. Like I said, this is a little deeper. So even though their roster isn't fully kind of scoped out now, I think it's got Mike Henry. I'm trying to go off memory. I didn't make notes today, so I'm winging it. But I know Billy Garrett for sure is heading up this team, and so they got access to a lot of players, and they should be a good squad, assuming everything comes together. So they're in for me.
Okay. And then Mike, anything hit you right with this sub-regional?
The Murray State team and the Bradley team look very interesting to me. The Bradley team has a very good track record in this tournament.
They do.
I would not sleep on them at all. I know, like, we have 9 wins and they have 8. And
not that anyone's counting.
Yeah, not that anyone's counting. But
how many wins do you have again, Mike? How many wins does Team 23 have?
9. And actually,
is it 9 wins? 9?
Yeah.
9.
Fun fact: of all the teams left out of the event last year, we had the most.
Fun fact indeed. Maybe the committee should consider that. If you can get your guys out of the French leagues, get them out of their baguettes. Okay, fair enough. We got one more sub-regional at the close. This very interesting trip down a potential 64-team team. Okay, so it's interesting. We all know I'm a huge Memphis fan, but I actually am a University of Illinois alumni. My master's degree is from Illinois, so the House of Fame, with grad transfer of Grand Rapids, Matt Dahm, and a lot of talent, a very, very dangerous squad. The Illinois Chicago Hoopville Warriors, I think it's an old, I think they're now branded Chicago. Dangerous team on a short commute. It's only 2 hours from Peoria to the greatest city in America, which is Chicago, I think. So it's going to be a tough matchup. Oh God, you did this to me. So Tubby time, who's got a really good roster, by the way, because Coach Tubby Smith, who was a legendary coach at Kentucky, a legendary coach in Minnesota, a really solid coach at Texas Tech, and he also coached at Memphis, which we won't talk about, has a pretty good roster there. They're being coached by former Memphis assistant, and I'm forgetting his name now. All I know is he always said, bam, building a monster. He's a really interesting guy. So he now coaches high school by Illiano. He coaches in Arizona. So they're going to be a pretty strong team. We'll see how I feel about that, to be honest with you. Friend of the pod, Fort Wayne champs, really quality squad. Always dangerous. They're still kind of filling out the roster. Garrett Marks is really trying to fill out a good roster, having similar problems, similar teams with the European leagues, just completely screwing up schedules because of COVID. So this is going to be a kind of a bridge year for some teams that may not get the rosters as set as they want. So this is a team we're watching to make sure they come correct. If they come correct, they'll have a roster, but it's a question to see if they can get these guys sprung from overseas. Charge to the right.
Team Brotherly Love, and I can put him at number 1, and Danny's still gonna be mad.
Danny hates.
And he's a good guy.
He's great. Danny's for the pod.
Yeah, I think this is a great region for brotherly love. And maybe I'm just a little down on last year. I thought they were going to go a little bit deeper, but they have the core of their guys back. They're a solid team. These guys strive as being the underdogs. They don't sweat it. Obviously, they talk about it and make people know, how many wins they have, and match it up against.
They're
the other
fantastic.
Teams.
They're fantastic.
They're a good team, and I think a solid 3 here. With Illinois being a host team, I think they slide a little bit ahead. But yeah, brotherly love's just consistent and will show up.
And they play tough. They play absolutely tough. So a buy-in team, always an interesting concept. But explain the buy-in concept a bit to our listeners who may not know what that is.
Yeah, so if you have $20,000 and you want to bet on yourself, then you can buy yourself into the TBT. So there's one slot per region. It's been publicized. So B1 Ballers, it's right in their bio that they're a buy-in team for $20K. Florida TNT, they did a nice article on Florida TNT, their buy-in team. We know Beasley has a buy-in for their tournament. So there's
one left.
Buy-in left. So if you got $20,000 burning a hole in your pocket and you want to bet on yourself, then have at it. So yeah, B1, I didn't even get a chance to look at their roster too much. They got Kevin Young from Kansas, another guy from New Mexico, I think, Corey something or other. Drawing a blank on it, but yeah, so this is a buy-in team, and so these things are really impactful on the bracket. So when you think you have it all figured out, and you see some teams get bumped, like Team Relentless, you kind of look back to some of these buy-in teams. I think Team Relentless has a nice squad, but once again, just trying to find the right spot for them.
One day we're going to train you to stop naming the teams before they're shown on the page. One day I'm going to get this figured out with you.
It's part of the color commentary. You got to go with it.
Color this, the team you love,
region.
the team you
absolutely
love.
The region, man. I'm standing for these guys hard this year. So all you need to know is Marcus Thorne. This guy will shoot your eye out. I mean, one of the best 3-point shooters in the world. So they've got him. They got Milton Doyle, who's solid guy, a lot of NBA experience. They got some of their old school guys like Cordero Bennett, who played really good TBT games. And so this is the year for the region to break out. And so I got these guys right in my kind of top 25 area, and I think they're going to be fantastic. And then KBC, Kentucky.
Our last team in.
And these guys here are solid. They show up every year with a nice roster. Last year was a little, messed up, but they'll have a good roster. They'll get into Illinois without a doubt, and they'll compete hard against anybody. So this is going to be a nice matchup. This plays through.
Now, Mike, you're one of the GMs of an OG team, an original team. So some of these teams like the Region, Fort Wayne, the Hoopville Warriors, these are teams of similar vintage, older teams that have a brand that's built in. Do you see shades of anything about these teams that people are long-term sort of OG teams? How are they viewed generally by the rest of the community? Like, what's important about being a long tenured team like the Region?
Oh, I think it's vitally important. I mean, if you're ever on the conference calls, they talk about reliability being like the second biggest factor after fan bases. So, I think is it Corey Moore? Is that the GM of the Region?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he shows up and he shows up with a good team. I mean, I think that they're kind of like Showtime, where they're really due for a win in this event. They're like really due for a win in this event, and he usually has a good team. So the reliability is a big thing within the TBT circle for sure.
Completely. So, I mean, I'm looking at this charge. This is the next up. You said Team Morales is somebody you're pretty high on, actually.
Yeah, I like him. This is another one where, unfortunately, it falls in this major group of teams that are on the bubble, and they all look too much alike. I mean, they're professional basketball players. They've got good GMs. They're pulling the videos. They're showing up with a team on the roster and on the website, and these are ones that really pains you, which we talked about. I definitely talked about this on the last show. I would never go back to playing games for the tournament. I am 100% in favor of things like the Beasley tournament. Imagine, there's 16 teams in the Beasley tournament, I believe. And imagine, you find 4 partners for each of the regionals that up to 16 teams can go play their way in, and it's affordable for the teams. But keep it at 64 in-house and find a way to get these teams a way to play in with good partners like Beasley. And I'm sure you can find people who run money tournaments in all parts of the country to make this happen.
Mike, you want to talk about Forces of Soul, which also intrigues me a little. So go ahead and make a point.
Yeah, I actually I find myself, I look at them a lot because I look at the South Korean league, and there's usually a lot of big men from America that play there. I think Vernon Macklin's on their roster. Like, there's some good players there. There's some good bigs. I wonder if TBT considers, because you have Kimchi Express, which kind of has like a Korean background to their team, and Forces of Soul. Do you think TBT thinks to themselves, like, do we want like 2 teams that have like a Korean-based story, even though they're totally different stories? Like, I wonder how that plays in the selection process, because they're an interesting team for sure.
I don't think it does. I think they both have fan base. They'll be quality. I don't think TBT thinks all Asian people look the same, for example. I think they'll figure out the distinction.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
no,
one of those ones. I think they're,
I'm just fucking with you, Mike.
whatever the reason, I think Kimchi's got the better brand right now. They got the better team. I think, the Forces of Soul. I find it intriguing that you're getting a lot more international flavor going on. I don't know if the teams are going to make it, but we talked about Forces of Soul. We got Jamaica basketball, which Omari Johnson's kind of heading up. I haven't seen much movement on that team, but these are guys that are eligible for the Jamaican team, the national team, and so they could have a decent group that can come in. You've got this Cape Town team from South Africa, which I believe is a minor league team that's probably going to play in the BAL next year, and so you're starting to see some interesting kind of international ties. I think it may be a little too early, unless you're, like I said, I'm still pulling for Unix to come up with just take their whole team from that league and drop it in here, because I think they could win the whole thing. But I think it's going to be interesting as moving forward is how you can involve some of these international teams and some of these overseas teams from Europe that can come in and kind of hit that new fan base out there.
Yeah. Well, that kind of completes our Bracketology. Mike, any closing thoughts on, like, as we try to get through this, like how hard it's going to be on the committee to pick these 64 teams?
Oh man. It's going to be really hard for the TBT. It's always a job for them, but they do a good job. And their seating, like, everyone can get mad at their seating all they want, but their seating is pretty spot on. Like, I think that their seating accuracy, I think they point this out on Twitter every once in a while too, that their seating accuracy is better than like the NCAA tournaments, because like the higher seeds win more often than the TBT than in the NCAA tournament. So that kind of is a testament to their seating accuracy. So I think I'm just going to go by that. I trust them, even if it affects me, and I'm sure like I'll bang my head against the wall and say, oh, I'm better than that team like everybody else does. But they have a good process.
Yeah, they do. And I mean, and this is a knee jerk by them. I mean, they're planning the next year's TBT a year in advance. So they got their big board up. They're tracking teams and movements. And so it's pretty amazing to see. But yeah, I'm excited to see what the next 2 weeks bring. We got the end of the application period and a big release on the 21st. So that should be fun. But looking forward to the feedback from the folks watching the pod. We'll get this out here in a day or two, maybe. So Hayner's got obviously a day job and a lot of production he does on the back end. So really appreciate Hayner and kind of thankless work he does on the back end to make the pod run. But I can't wait to hear.
You
the
can
feedback.
Stop saying back end now.
Yeah.
I was saying it's interesting. I think it's gonna be a really fun bracket. I think we all need this to get back to normal. We all need to have our basketball back. And I think it's gonna be fun to see Sands in the stands. I think what's really interesting is like the one point you guys both raised is that there's a lot of teams that are of a quality to deserve it. This is already shaping out to be one of the deepest fields we've ever seen. And the fact that there's still 2 weeks, like there's probably one or two surprise teams that'll get organized. So there's probably one or two stud teams that we don't know about. So the cut line is probably, Charles, you think the cut line's pretty well set? That's about where the cut line is right now with defections and with teams kind of jumping in.
Yeah, I think we captured most of the folks. Some of the teams that I don't know enough about is CP3 may get a team. If he does, he's in. Boogie
We didn't even include him yet. That's
yeah,
right.
no, I haven't heard of a peep. So I'm, but so to your point,
he's busy whipping LeBron's ass right now.
Yeah, so you could be 3-4 more teams in there. So as you guys look at these brackets, and hopefully you'll agree how painful it is. So be gentle when you criticize the bracket, but
or don't. We don't care.
Yeah, it is fun. It's all fun. Yeah. We just love talking TBT. So
hey, LeBron could get a team in because he's not going to be doing anything in about. I'm kidding. Yeah, insult LeBron. Great way to close the pod.
For Mid American Unity this year. Let's close the deal on it. And
shout out to Mike. Shout out to Mike on that one.
Yeah, but it's going to be pretty wild. And but I think minimum 3 to 4 more teams we're not even thinking about right now show up somewhere.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, thanks a lot for coming on. We got Michael Illiano, Team 23, and TBT OG, my partner in charge. I'm Hayner. We are signing off with our second to last Bracketology. We'll do one more of these after the selection application process is closed on the 15th. We are signing off from Zoom the TBT.
Hope you enjoyed listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hayner. Subscribe to YouTube, follow on Twitter, and give us your money.